begun to really interrogate and think about liberal arts education, it has been interesting to me to note that this term, liberal arts education, often gets used to mean several different things that I think are related but also somewhat distinct. The term liberal arts education is often used as synonymous with an education in the great books. Think of James Murphy's article, Why a Core? The idea that there are certain ideas and authors that have stood the test of time and have been influential. The curriculum of St. John's College or the core curriculum at Columbia would essentially be a great book's understanding of liberal arts education. A second understanding of liberal arts education goes back more to the classical concept of the quadrivium and the trivium: grammar, rhetoric, logic, math, biology. The idea that reality is complex and our minds apprehend reality in different ways. Simply put, being able to express yourself in rhetoric is a different kind of way of knowing something than understanding the mathematical calculations that go into building a bridge. But both of those are ways of knowing the world, but require a different education. To build a bridge and to make a good argument requires a different approach to education because our minds are shaped in by encountering different things. A third way that I think liberal arts education gets used is synonymous with a human formation, a certain kind of character, a certain kind of Christian virtue. Oftentimes, liberal arts education essentially gets used to mean moral education or Christian education. When I visit some of the independent K-12 schools that have a liberal arts mission, one of the things I have noticed that's common across nearly all of them is a distinct emphasis on the importance of beauty. Beauty in the classroom, in terms of paintings, icon. One K-12 school I visited in Boston, the walls are pink and green and blue. It's bright, it's colorful. There's an integration between classroom learning and outdoor experiences in nature. And all of them, not all, but many of these schools have begun to reincorporate the fine arts, crafts, painting, weaving, manual expressions of fine arts, right? Making beautiful things. In fact, one of the things I like about children is that anything they make is beautiful, even things that kind of look ugly to the eye, but they made it. And it's exciting. So these four understandings of what liberal arts education is: great books, quadrivium and trivium, Christian formation or moral formation, and beauty. That's just a conceptual framework. I think any particular school probably does a little bit of each of those, or some of them do more than others. Obviously, a school of the arts, dance, ballet is going to do a lot more of the beauty and the fine arts, and they're probably not going to do as much of the great text. I think all of those models that I'm talking about are all oriented in one way or another to try to push back on the overly cognitive achievement test score way of teaching, learning, and assessing. So they're all just, for my purposes, they're all different than just classroom learning, testing, experimentation, etc. So what I've increasingly come to think is that there needs to be a country as big and as diverse as the United States is going to have very different kinds of educational institutions that have different emphases. And that's perfectly normal, and that's fine. However, I do think if we stop and think that one of the universal characteristics of the human person is that we are made to perceive beauty and to desire beauty, as I think we read about today, especially in Scruton, then we have to think about what can all types of educational systems do to foster that awe, that wonder. I think we're in grave danger that if we don't educate this desire for beauty, it will be miseducated. And I think this is Postman's contention in Amusing Ourselves to Death. If we don't educate the human desire for beauty, it can become dumbed down through forms of entertainment that over time weaken those very cognitive skills that we prize so much. So I think that the rediscovery of the aesthetic dimension of education is relevant not just to the fine arts. I think it's relevant to all subjects, including those that we tend to think are the most cognitive, such as science, engineering, and math. Precisely because aesthetics, the desire for beauty, the ability for wonder and awe, leads to the creative intuition behind scientific discovery. If you look at the history of science or look at the biography of scientists who have invented things, very often the great inventions they have had did not come from a meticulous application of the scientific method. It came from an intuition that then gets worked out with the aid of the scientific method. But those intuitions, those insights, came from their creativity.